United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as Councilor Durkee gives a moment of silence for the veterans.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of silence for all the troops who are all over the world and for those supporting them. We also ask especially for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom.
You may be seated. This is a special meeting of the City Council which has been called subject to Rule 88 for the purpose of gathering additional information regarding the comprehensive zoning study. Councilors will hear testimony from residents regarding this proposed ordinance. No other matters are in order tonight. If you wish to testify, please form a line at the lectern, state your name and address for the record, and sign a log. Each individual will be allowed up to 5 minutes to testify. Kathy Magliadini, our assistant clerk, is to my right. She'll hold the card up when you have 1 minute left if you utilize all that time. And we'd ask that you just not run beyond that. So if you would, anybody that would like to testify, they can come up and sign in. Do any councilors have any correspondence that they'd like to include for the record?
Yes, Mr. President, I have correspondence from 2 of my constituents. First, one email from Zach Shapiro, Sarah Cryer, and Nathan Shapiro of 2 Day Street. And secondly, an email from Sven Lobridge of 20 Friend Street in Waltham. They've asked me to have these entered into the official record if the clerk could provide copies of those to councilors, and also, obviously, when you can, and provide a copy to the consultant. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Katz.
I will have one letter from a resident to be read into the record from Paul Umbrello on Stowe Street. I will send it to the clerk.
Councilor Bradley.
I do have one email correspondence from David accepting that for the chair.
Great. You can just get a copy of that to the clerk.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilor.
Yes. I also have correspondence with the museum,
So we're going to begin. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. My name is Diana Gavin, 147 Fisher's Forest Drive in Waltham, and I want to thank you for having this hearing. My concern on the zoning code, there's so many areas, but the one I chose to comment on is the open space definition in the zoning code. And I wanted to mention that, as you all know, Waltham has plenty of open space, but it is not evenly distributed. It's mostly north of the river, and a lot of it in North Waltham. Whereas south of the river, you have communities that have very little open space, other than, green space, other than some lovely parks, playgrounds, but not a lot of it. And we had attended the Waltham Land Trust annual meeting this past November. We had a presentation from Dr. Mike Bennett, who runs the collaboratory at the Charles River Museum, and he is a program STEM studies for kids. And he had his students do a whole bunch of maps. I would recommend that you use him perhaps as or the kids as a source, but one of the things that he showed us with some maps, but he said that urban areas need about 40% canopy cover to mitigate heat islands. And I think most of us know that. You go for a walk in the woods on a really hot day, the temperature drops tremendously when you get in under the tree canopy. But instead, what we find in Waltham, if you get certain neighborhoods, is something that's much, much less. And the question is, can a zoning code be used to correct something? For example, it's 18% in the chemistry and the south side. It's, your city hall is 18%. It's 20% in the chemistry and the south side. And it's about 30% in the bleachery and the area slightly north of it, which I don't know the name of. The zoning code only defines open space that I could find in the version of the zoning code that I have. In the incentive zoning section, and let me read that to you because it's not terribly clear. It says, usable open space. Usable open space shall be defined as the part or parts of land within the property which are reserved for permanent open space. This space shall exclude parking areas, but include required setbacks and walkways. The usable open space shall be open and unobstructed to the sky. However, trees, plantings, arbors with flagpoles, sculptures, fountains, swimming pools, gazebos, atriums, outdoor recreation facilities, and similar objects shall not be considered obstructions. So there's a lot of stuff that's actually buildings and other things that's on the ground. And it's not green space in some cases. So my question becomes one of, is it possible for the zoning code to provide for not just open space, but better definition of open space to consider green space as part of it, including trees? And if it can't, can the city council consider having in place a tree ordinance? It's my understanding that in some of the redevelopment of properties where an old house comes down and they put up two other houses, a lot of times they're clear cutting the trees. And question whether or not it's always necessary to remove them. And if it is, should there be a requirement for them to put them back, a sizable tree? So I hope you'll consider doing that. The one thing I did want to mention is currently on one special permit, permeable subsurface or surface for parking was, I believe, was considered open space. That doesn't sound like open space to me. So I hope you'll consider making open space include some green space and things that will mitigate the heat islands on the south side. Thank you.
Diana, just give me your address one more. I have it. We'll get people.
147 Bishop's Forest Drive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chris Bradziel. I live at 297 School Street. I got a few points. I'm going to keep them short and quick. I am an engineer. I often deal with zoning and looking at zoning codes. And I've done some stuff in Waltham, and frankly, our current zoning code is very convoluted, and there are a lot of things that are circular and confusing. So if we can do anything to help that out, I think it'll help a lot of situations, and it'll help a lot of things that don't need to get special permits. One concern of mine living here in Bank Square is twofold. There's a lot of development happening. I see a lot of low-income housing getting knocked down, and I see a lot of $1.5 million homes getting built. This only exacerbates the problem. I think you can almost see it out the window here with Chapter 40B. Okay? Can we be thinking about how we can designate space and help control the 40B development within the city? I know our hands are kind of tied behind our backs because of what the state can do with that, but it's here, it's real. As the councilor noted, the traffic is horrendous, and I'm sorry, I might enrage people when I say this, but having zero parking in development in the city of Waltham is not the way to do it. We should do smart development. We should look at a case-by-case basis at large developments and make sure that we consider all the aspects. Not have minimums, not have maximums. And I guess my final point is, I would like to see something written into the design aesthetic of some of these developments that are going on. My neighborhood has had several buildings built, modern architecture that are basically built volumetrically to the limits of the lots. And I'm sorry, but they tower over the rest of the houses, even though they are the same heights, because they do not have roof lines. So I would like to have some consideration to that. I don't want to get in the way of things like that, because frankly, there are homes that do need to be redeveloped. But I would like us to have a little bit more control. A good example would be what I see in West Newton. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Zach Fowler-Diaz. I live at 25 Clemens Road in the Warrendale neighborhood. I want to first of all thank the council for undertaking this effort and hiring a consulting team to help with that. I think this process is long overdue, and I'm really excited to see some community engagement happening around it as well. I think there are two things that I would like to see come out of this effort. One is a greater commitment to housing and density of housing in our city, as well as a greater commitment to affordable housing. I'd also like to see this zoning code maybe shift away from very rigid delineations of types of uses in the city, maybe kind of pivot away from a more Euclidean model of zoning to a more form-based model of zoning, which I think would also help with some of the design concerns that the last speaker had spoken about. Going back to sort of affordable housing, I think there are some ways in our zoning code that we could help encourage more affordable housing development and production. Specifically, one thing that I would like us to look at is linkage fees. This is something that Cambridge and several other communities like Chelsea, Watertown, Somerville use to raise money for affordable housing production from commercial development. So it's like a tax or assessment per square foot, usually on commercial development, that then goes straight to the Affordable Housing Trust and creates a more sustainable revenue mechanism for Affordable Housing Trust to build all affordable housing, which I think is something that we definitely need in the city. I think another thing that we could do to encourage more affordable housing is consider zoning overlays for affordable housing that would give developers that are willing to build all affordable housing or commit to a significant portion of middle income housing a density bonus to make them more competitive for purchasing any sites for those types of developments, and also for making their performance work. I think more broadly speaking, I think the city could use some more targeted higher density development. I think one area of opportunity that I would like to see addressed is Main Street, specifically as to the MBTA's bus network redesign. The 70 bus route is then designated a priority bus route, which means it'll have service no less than every 15 minutes. I think we can leverage that opportunity and the transportation connection that it creates to Central Square and Cambridge to consider creating a zoning overlay on Main Street or portions of Main Street where feasible to encourage higher density development than what's there. I think it'd also be great, and this is now shifting to my second point about separation of uses, but it'd be great to see more mixed use development in Waltham. I think our zoning code right now is very rigid about what types of uses can be allowed where. I think one of the things that would be great to pivot to is maybe a more village-based type of mix of uses where you might be able to walk out your home in Warrendale and swing by like a local grocery store or a deli or something, or that there are more commercial uses within walking distance to some of our residents. I think there are pockets of that already exist in Waltham, but I think our zoning code makes that illegal in most cases today. I think that's what I gotta say, but I think we really need to consider where and how we can have higher density housing, because I think, the supply of housing in Waltham is very constrained, and, we need to be making it easier to build more housing in order for people like me and like many people I know who've lived in Waltham for almost their whole lives and are getting to the point where we'd like to, buy our own place or, rent a place out and are getting priced out of the city. So, thank you.
I'm going to ask a favor before you begin. Could you just pass that clipboard behind you? 6 or 7 years. And the reason that I'm at that address is because of the grant that was given to me by the city of Waltham in 2018. It was part of a Watch Voucher program. Obviously, you all know that went away. But again, I want to greatly emphasize the fact that the city also really needs to look at affordable housing. Because at this point, effective next month, I'm basically priced out of the city of Waltham because my income does not support what the base income is in the city of Waltham. Right now, I had $800 increase in rent. So yeah, so come 1st of July, I'm probably going to be homeless because I can't afford to live in the city of Waltham. So it's, again, extremely important when you look at this rezoning to consider those of us in the city that pay taxes in the city, that we need to stay here to support the city. And if you think that the big corporations that you're driving in the city are going to stay here, what are you going to do when they leave and they're the tax base? The people that have been here for over 100 years that pay the city taxes aren't going to be here anymore. So, thank you.
Just give us your name one more time.
Sir, Belinda, last name's Chance, J-N-T-Z.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, good evening. My name is Mitchell DePanny. I'm at 372 River Street, Nickel. Thanks for taking the time tonight to do a hearing. Appreciate the chance to have our voices heard and getting the chance to shape the future of the city. The comprehensive zoning review is a good opportunity to examine sort of what's worked and what's not worked over the years and maybe change course in the needs of the city that's moving pretty quickly past the start of the 21st century. First, probably a good idea to look at what's not worked and should change. Basically, currently most of Waltham is illegal in a certain sense. What I mean by that is up to 72% of the city's homes don't conform with the present zoning code. If any of those such buildings were destroyed in a natural disaster, burned down by fire, condemned due to structural issues, etc., the type and character of those buildings can't be rebuilt, right? This is a pretty historic city, everybody knows that to an extent, and we do have a lot of buildings here that are quite old, many of which have been preserved better than others. This represents a pretty big problem in two ways. The first, obviously, is that character is now endangered, and over time, people have noticed it's eroded. Part of that is a natural process, but part of that is a result of the restrictive zoning code we have. The second issue is that it presents a monumental issue for affordability and accessibility for people who live in Waltham. If we want to maintain the veneer of the good old days that longtime residents like to reminisce about, and ensure that the folks here that are growing up today as kids and want to have a fighting chance living here in the future when it's come time to buy a home, then we need to enact a form-based zoning code that's informed by Waltham, the past, kind of contradictory, but intuitive in some way. Basically, in the past, we had a few key ingredients in the recipe for a healthy city that the Waltham of today lacks in its zoning code. Most importantly is the allowance of homes on small lots between 3,000 and 5,000 square feet, modest setbacks of only up to 10 feet up front, 10 feet on the sides, 20 out back, and no maximum to the number of units on one lot. That last piece is probably the most key. Today, our unit maximums and lot size minimums only allow the construction of $1 million single-family homes on very large, oversized lots. I think this is most clear the further north you go. My home is a 4-family townhouse with a lot coverage of about 50%, give or take. No setback from the street that I can discern, and is way more affordable than anything going up today or anything that's gone up in the last 20, 30 years. My neighbor's unit just sold this past winter for about $600,000, and such a home is illegal to build these days, despite being perfect for a small household like his, just him and his son, or like mine, me and my fiance, plus 2 cats, so I don't know if that counts. What I'd like to ask from Waltham's new zoning is that unit and density maximums be eliminated forthright, which sounds pretty radical, but really it's just going back in time. and that a form-based code be implemented to better allow the construction of new modern townhomes and condos like mine. At the moment, while Waltham does allow certain lots to build multifamily, those units don't really pencil out unless they're priced at about $1 million and with less than 3,000 square feet. So what you get is very large duplexes, which are fine in their own right in some circumstances, but one size fits all doesn't fit all. What you're left with is really expensive homes that are built today. If we can remove unit and density restrictions, we can allow abundant townhomes like mine that were once the city's bread and butter. Form-based code is best. Second issue that I want to talk about, just this part, is parking. My home only has one parking space, which for many reasons is useful. My fiance only has one car, me and her between us, making a second parking space needless and kind of ugly, because we live in a dense multifamily building close to the center of town. We have great access to a dentist, grocery stores, public pool, multiple transit options. In a city where all homes have multiple parking spaces or big lots that surround them, it makes it more difficult because the buildings have to be more spread out. It really wouldn't have that kind of walkability and accessibility in such a town. Reducing parking minimums to one space per home, regardless of the number of units in the building, or simply eliminating such minimums, would allow greater density so we can maintain this level of access and enjoy reductions in things like noise, air pollution, and vehicular danger from the resultant lower number of cars. That's really critical. This is good for families that don't want to or simply can't afford multiple cars, both camps which I fall into, coincidentally. An environment like that with less parking is ultimately going to be cheaper to build on and live in, safer, and more accessible to people with disabilities in many cases who would not have to contend with season parking across. Is that my timer went back? Great. Lastly, just a response to folks who may think that they prefer the status quo or the restrictive rule burden system we have now. They might say, you know, they like the streets the way they are, big wide roads, they like their empty parking lots, hot dark oceans of pavement, big hungry, water hungry lawns, expensive mansions. They might say that this isn't perfect either, but some other code that nobody's talked about or thought about might be better, but no suggestion comes. And that's fine, you know what? Everybody's got different ideas about what they want. This zoning code wouldn't change that. But a majority of people in Waltham, I think, working people, middle class, young folks, professionals, new families like mine, want something that works better for us and we can live in comfortably. Small bungalows on small lots, fourplexes, sixplexes with minimal parking, access to transit, and ample neighborhood green space, which somebody spoke about very well earlier. That's the kind of stuff that will make Waltham's future bright. Thank you so much.
What he said. Hi, everyone. My name is Deb Kerman. I live at 3 Commerce Place in Ward 6. Thank you for being here to listen to us and hopefully to implement the zoning consultant's suggestions. I want to talk about the American dream. I bet every single one of you lives in or has lived in a single family home. So have I. We've all been there. We're proud people owning our own home. That's part of the American dream. But since we've bought our homes, zoning has made it more and more difficult. It has taken out the steps to go up in order to own a single-family home. Not a lot of apartments, not a lot of multi-family homes, not a lot of condos, not a lot of starter homes. Those are the steps that probably you and I took before we purchased our home. We need to reduce the zoning restrictions that keep us and our kids and our grandkids from being able to go up that home ladder. I know my parents started with a ranch, as did I, and my ex-husband started with a ranch house. There's very, very few modest, single-family starter homes, and I think that would be a great place to change our zoning. I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking for the same opportunities for our kids and grandkids as we had when we purchased our homes. Thank you.
And that's problematic because, it's like, causing like, more like, heat. Because I previously took a human health and environment course this past semester, and I learned that more trees are more beneficial. And that's one of the main concerns I have is the lack of trees in Warrendale, and people continue to cut down trees. But I also have another issue, which is that we are overbuilding, because the more we overbuild, the less likely more families are able to afford living in Waltham. Because when I drive by the south side, I've been noticing that they've been knocking down old houses, which were historic, and decide to build multi-million condos or apartments in their site. And that's problematic because I noticed that more families want to live in Waltham, not just in the south side, but all over. And I noticed that we are also prioritizing over building, they say it's affordable, but in reality it's not, because instead these developers are charging $1 million for a home. That and then the rent is going up too, with the more we've been overbuilding, and it's causing more traffic, traffic congestion. Because what I learned from my human health and environment course, I'm going to take it back there, is that the more traffic a city has, the more it can cause many people to get uncomfortable, and it can also cause health issues as well. So noise pollution, and then also cause respiratory, more children could get exposed to respiratory. I know we're not going to completely avoid parking immediately, but completely. But I do notice that the way we've been overbuilding is that traffic has gotten way more congested. But we also should try to limit the building on I know we need affordable housing more than ever, but what I would suggest is to refurbish the historic homes instead of just knocking them completely down and completely overbuilding. And the rooms are also really small too, from what I've seen from images. And I've seen that they are charging a completely high amount for a bedroom that's the size of a closet, for an apartment that's the size of a closet, which is just insane. So I think that we should if we were to get affordable housing, we should just limit the building. And I also believe that, I know it's completely out of my control, but I would suggest to be more diversified on the cuisines, because I don't mind any of the Guatemalan places or Asian places, but I think I would suggest also being diversified with restaurants as well, especially with many of the people that come to work here. We used to have Bison County, but they shut down due to the pandemic. So it's people when they think of Waltham, especially Movie Street, they think of all diverse cuisine types. And I would also another thing that struck out to me was the development that's been the proposed development on the old double strip, Home Sweets Inn and the Naked Fish. I personally think that they should not have building going on over there, because that could have been a good spot for a restaurant, especially all the office workers that want to look for that got to go eat during their lunch breaks. And I work in an office section, in an office building, and we only have a couple restaurants, and I think that we should do better on managing what could go on in Off 128. And I conclude this section.
Hi, my name is Doreen Frigo. I live at 14 Ripley Street. And I just would like to bring up, recommend a reconsideration of industrial businesses that are in neighborhoods, in particular the excavation company that is at River Street and Willow. And it seemed out of place. I learned that about 10 years ago, the building department closed it. And then they appealed and went before the zoning board. And the zoning board approved it because it was on a spur. And they, I haven't seen the record of it, what went down, but because there was a spur there 100 years ago or something, so that would exempt it from other regulations. So I just want to recommend reconsidering industrial businesses in neighborhoods next to restaurants. This is so much dust and huge, massive dump trucks going down River Street, disturbing the peace. So, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Sergio Michelson, and I just bought and moved to my home in 12 Russell Street. So, just like Deb said, I love Waltham so much. I moved here about 4 years ago and decided that this is the place where I wanted to, get that American dream and move here. But as I lived more and more here, I started to notice, some of the things that we could do better as a society, as a city. One of the first things that I loved about Waltham was, Moody Street, walking those streets, very vibrant, mixed use. You get so many good restaurants, so many good places to eat, to hang out, and that was one of the big factors that, got me to move here. And I would love to see our zoning to be able to, see the more parts of the city, We have that area, the Felton Street area that's very industrialized. That could be a good spot to do that. Main Street, I would love to continue to see, mixed use. One of the sad examples of Moody Street is seeing that 200 Moody Street, all abandoned, beautiful location right in front of the river, and not be able to be constructed because of, the parking limits. We love to, Waltham is a well-connected area. You have the bus, you have the train system, so having so constricted requirements for parking is not realistic. My partner and I, we only have one car. He's able to move, go to work, to Concord, use the train every day. I unfortunately have to drive all the way to Burlington. Not good public transport all the way there, but still seeing some of those parking requirements reduced and be able to build more mixed use would be amazing. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
My name is Gustav Michelson, and I live at 12 Russell Street. Thank you for this opportunity to provide public input on our zoning review process. I want to say that, if my house had to comply with the rules as they're written today, it just wouldn't exist. The setbacks would eat up the entire lot. It has not enough frontage. The lot's about half the size that's required for my zone. And I think that if our zoning code can't reflect what's actually there right now, then it means we have to change it to enable our code to reflect the Waltham that we know and love. And so my house was built in the 1880s, so I think it predates by 100 years a lot of the rules as they came in throughout the 50s and 70s and 90s. So I think we should, return to that more traditional style of development that creates community, allows small, more affordable lots, doesn't restrict parking spaces too much. Like my partner said, I took the train here today, it was 20 minutes late, unfortunately, so I had to run a little bit, and I'm a little bit sweatier, but at least I'll be healthier for that. Thank you for this opportunity, and yeah, I want to express that I hope our zoning can reflect, our neighborhoods as they've been developed in our traditional development patterns and keep housing supply increasing at a manageable pace and with less restrictions than it is today.
My name is Nate Whitefield, or Nate. I have two different names. I'm a student student at the middle school, right from Kennedy. I'm in 8th grade going on to the high school, and I came here to speak. It was a part of my civics project, civics. I met one of the counselors at Waltham.
I know who you are, Nate. I can recognize you with the hat. You go, I'm glad you're here. You talk.
Hey, give us your address.
13 Charles Bank Way, near the Brandeis, the college. So I came here to say that I like Waltham a lot. I've lived here for 8 years or so. I live here with me and my mom, so it's only us. But basically, my mom, I talked to her about it, and she says that housing in Waltham is like really expensive. Because we used to have to pay $3,300 for an apartment. I know it sounds kind of crazy, and it's only her. So that's why we moved around a lot. So I've been to like 4 of the elementary schools: MacArthur, Clinton, Northeast, and Livermore. And I've also been to both middle schools, Kennedy and McGill. That's how much I moved. So I also wanted to say that I agree with a couple of the other points. Like, I really like Main Street. Main Street, I think is a really cool place. Especially that like intersection where there's like the McDonald's and the Wendy's right across from each other. I like that.
Me too, Nate. I like it too.
And I think that getting more like interesting places across like Main Street or Moody would be a great addition to Waltham, and it would make more people want to come here. Because I think most people that come to Waltham, they come for like things that you see, the stores, the sites, and just like sometimes the schools too. Brandeis is a really amazing school. I know. Well, I don't know. I know. So that's all I wanted to say.
That's great. Nate, did you sign a clipboard?
Yeah, I signed.
And make sure you tell your civics teacher in the civics class what you did today. I appreciate you.
Tell your teacher I'm proud of you.
Hi, my name is Alex Adamson, and I rent a room in a house on 12 Wheelock Terrace. I'm a tenure track professor in an elite school, and I got priced out of my 1-bedroom on Charles Street in a building that didn't have functioning doorbells, but we all know the rents here for a 1-bedroom are over $3,000. So as I look at the zoning code and think about how sure we should make smaller houses that people could buy, I guess I've never thought that I would buy a house regardless, because I graduated in 2008 when all my friends lost their houses. So I just kind of gave up the idea of that. So what I care most about is that we get high density housing, so hopefully we don't pay $3,000 for a 1-bedroom in crumbling apartments. I think it's ridiculous that we have these parking minimums. Like, if people can't afford a house, they also can't afford cars. So if we have more high density in places like Main Street, Moody Street, I don't think it's going to be this radical increase in traffic. I think it's going to be a radical increase in the quality of people's lives, that they can live somewhere that they can walk to, that they have the grocery store, they have the trains, they have the bus. And so I really just think it's very archaic that we are keeping these zoning codes that are like not allowing more high density housing in places that are built for high density housing. And hopefully that could lead to lowering the rents. And then maybe someday we could save up money and buy a house. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Alex, did you sign a clipboard?
Yeah.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. I came in late. I missed any introductory remarks. I apologize. My name is Matthew Frederick. I live at 21 Lyman Street. I am a urban designer and consultant in economic development. And if anybody would like to have more of the conversation I want to initiate here, please visit me at radicalurbanism.com. I'm very familiar with mainstream urban development, and I think we're very self-congratulatory because we talk mixed uses and density, walkability, et cetera, et cetera. yet the problems keep getting worse. I asked in a public meeting very recently, you can't look at zoning by, start looking at zoning by looking at zoning. You have to say what kind of society do we want to live in. And not everybody will agree on that, but I think we need to build a more local culture. We need to stop driving to the suburbs for everything we need. I would like to live in, well, I do live in Waltham, I sleep in Waltham, I'd like to live in Waltham. There's been some talk of parking. The city should have total responsibility for parking. Stop requiring anybody to put parking on site. Charge developers a fee so that you can put that into your garage development fund or your parking lot fund. But the south side is being destroyed by development that is putting garage doors in front of these houses and it's killing the street environment. We're talking in mainstream development, mainstream urban planning today a lot about more density, more density. Well, you build more density in the same places because people have to get jobs. If they work still in Marlborough, or southern New Hampshire, wherever they're going, you're putting more people in old neighborhoods and everybody's still getting into the car and choking down the same roads. You have to bring commerce, businesses to the neighborhoods. And you don't do that by saying, here's where we're going to have mixed uses. We need to liberalize home businesses for all. I'm an architect. I can work in my home. My wife is a late agent. She can work at home. Why can't people who cut hair, or who knit dresses, or Afghans, or who make various products, why are we so elitist that these people can't make a living in their home? These are the things that people in a real neighborhood need. And if you want them within walking distance, liberalize residential business development by residents. If I live in a place, I should have a civil right to make a living in my home. And my final point, and there's a lot more, so the conversation is very complex. I apologize if I'm not making as much sense as I would like. We are tired, all of us, of developers coming in and building 400-unit buildings. And there's talk in the Boston area we're, I don't know, 40,000 units short of a fair market. We didn't fail to build 40,000 units. What we did is we failed to build one unit 40,000 times. So if you want to solve the housing problem and you want to help people stay in Waltham, people build housing for their in-laws and so forth, give greater development rights to residents over outsiders. Free up local residents to add units. We have an ADU law that's a start. But give greater development rights to residents. Don't let Dunkin' Donuts come in and open a business at home. But if I want to sell muffins, I should be able to do it in my home. I should be able to add 1 or 2 units to my home. I should have greater rights than an outside developer. There's something called a Zen koan, which is a riddle, a puzzle. The Zen master says to the student, he says, I have a stick, and if you tell me it's not a stick, I will hit you with it. If you tell me it is a stick, I will hit you with it. What is the student to do? The student reaches up and he takes the stick from the master. That's what I'm asking us to do. We're getting beat over the head by developers. We need to be the developers. We need to make our own community. Please give us, the residents, greater rights. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Genevieve Tavera, 158 Marguerite Avenue. I've been working with the Waltham community for over 10 years, and I'm still working every day with residents to help them to have safe and affordable housing. I work directly with families, seniors, tenants, and landlords, people who love the city, who contribute to it, and who are doing everything they can to stay here. And that's why I'm here tonight. Because zoning is not just about buildings, it's about people. It shapes who gets to live in Waltham, who gets left out, and what kind of future we are creating together. Right now, 72% of the homes in Waltham are illegal to build under the current zoning code. That's a shocking number. And it tells us that our rules are completely out of step with the reality of our neighborhoods. We need to fix that. We need zoning that makes room for starter homes, modest multifamilies, reasonable parking rules that don't drive up the housing cost, green space in every neighborhood, and most of all, actual affordable housing. Here's the truth. Waltham, since 2020, hasn't produced a single unit of affordable housing under our current zoning rules. The requirement for deep affordability exists, but there is no city funding to support it. But when the city does it, like the $6 million investment at Leland Homes, we see results. That funding helped convert 13 units from moderate income to deeply affordable homes at 60% AMI. That's the kind of leadership that we need. So how can we move forward? Let's fix the inclusionary zoning requirements so more projects can actually get built. Let's conduct an economic feasibility study to understand what's possible. And let's guarantee funding through the Community Preservation Community, through the Waltham Housing Trust. So we are not just talking about affordable housing, we are actually building it. I know zoning can be complicated, but for the families that I work with, this is very real. And they cannot wait for years and years of debates. They need action now. Waltham has the chance to lead, to adopt zoning that reflects who we are and the kind of city we want it to be. Let's make room for the people who make the city work. Let's create neighborhoods where families can stay, where seniors can age in place, and where future generations don't have to leave Waltham to find a home. Please support a zoning code that is inclusive, affordable, sustainable for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Tom Benavides. I live at 308 River Street, number 3 here in Waltham. Thank you for taking the time to hold this public hearing. I'm especially appreciative to you all for hiring zoning consultants to perform both review and the update for this zoning code, because Waltham has, what is at this point, just a small little graveyard of reports that were never implemented. In particular, Waltham has a 2015 report from a zoning advisory committee and a 2020 report from the ad hoc affordable housing committee, which many people here worked on and did great work. Because both of those reports had really great data and recommendations that were never acted on. So I hope this year we finally read through those old reports and implement their suggestions in our zoning code. And also in 2023, the Massachusetts Department of Transportation published a Route 128 land use and transportation study, which I know you've all heard me talk about, and this study examines the causes and solutions to this region's traffic crisis, of which Waltham is sort of the epicenter. This report is remarkably comprehensive, and importantly, it concludes that roadway improvements are fundamentally incapable of solving Waltham's traffic. Waltham's traffic is caused by the fact that we build extreme amounts of commercial development while building incredibly little housing nearby, forcing workers to drive long distances to commute into Waltham. The solution to our traffic is zoning. Transit-oriented zoning, mixed-use zoning, and generally just zoning for a lot more housing period, as put forward in the study, so that there isn't as much commuter traffic clogging up our roadways to begin with. So I do hope you take these reports into consideration as we're moving forward with the zoning code, that all these reports are in the hands of the consultants. And on a personal note, I love Waltham. It's an amazing city, vibrant downtown, and a lot of relatively old and relatively affordable housing. But our current zoning code, as has been mentioned many times today, doesn't reflect that. Everything in our city, from Moody Street to our multifamily neighborhoods to our single-family neighborhoods, all of them are non-conforming with existing zoning. The vast majority of people in this room, including the vast majority of people at the city council table currently, live in homes that would be illegal to build today. And this has real harms. Not only does it make it incredibly difficult for business owners and residents to make any kind of alterations to their homes and properties, it also makes it so that the only thing that ever gets built is $2 million McMansions and $1 million duplexes, which is what we zone for. And our city has literally made it illegal to build the small, affordable homes like we used to. So if there is one singular item that I hope you take away from this input hearing and that you pass on to the consultants, I hope it is that we need a zoning code which actually represents our neighborhoods as they currently exist. And that means building small. In our single-family neighborhoods, we've got to legalize small homes on small lots with small setbacks and small frontages, so that we can build starter homes like we used to. In our multifamily neighborhoods, we've got to abolish our density maximums and instead only regulate the size of the building itself. Adopt a form-based code so that we can build a larger number of smaller apartments and condos like we used to. Get $6,000 units instead, 6,000 foot units instead of just $2,000 to $3,000 million units. And in all neighborhoods, we've got to significantly relax our parking minimums. Looking at our existing single-family inventory, where many of the starter homes have skinny driveways with tandem parking, that shouldn't be illegal. And looking at our multifamily homes, we shouldn't be mandating massive amounts of empty pavement. We need parking minimums that actually reflect the needs of existing residents. One spot minimum for right-rate units and no minimum for affordable senior and disability units, as those should be prioritized. With, of course, these always being a minimum. If people need more parking, they can always build more, but we shouldn't be mandating empty pavement. While I don't have a specific number in mind, we also need to seriously revisit our commercial parking mandates. They are actively destroying our downtown, and it's one of the primary reasons 210 Moody Street has been blighted and vacant for over a decade. And for those who don't know, I recently took the time to count all the parking spots at the Chateau. And the Chateau is an establishment that owns 11 separate parcels for roughly 250 parking spots for a single restaurant. And the Chateau does not meet our current parking minimums. It's insanely dysfunctional, our current parking requirements. Downtown Waltham should not be zoned like a strip mall. Waltham should be zoned like Waltham. So once again, more than anything, I hope you make it a priority to lift and relax the extreme number of zoning restrictions that make our existing neighborhoods non-conforming and illegal to build today. We need a zoning code that represents our neighborhoods as they actually exist. And I'm speaking as a member of Waltham Inclusive Neighborhoods in line with our priorities for the zoning code that prioritizes single-family starter homes, modest multifamily homes, smarter parking requirements, more green space, and actual affordable housing creation. And the last one is important is, okay, I'm low on time, but Waltham, as mentioned, has not produced a single unit of affordable housing under our current zoning in the past 5 years, and I know that point was reached with good intentions. And because of that, I know with good intentions, we can navigate our way out of it. I've been told that we're currently working on a economic feasibility analysis for the whole city, which is a very important step forward. I please do ask that those are incorporated into the final zoning code. And also importantly, as the House has indicated, we can't put our own money to deepen that affordability, and we should be paying for more affordable housing because that's money well spent. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Tim Riley. I live at 100 Howard Street in Ward 6. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm really glad that we're having this conversation because I think it's very important. So my first ask is that we remove our parking mandates. We apply these mandates to businesses and residents based mostly on intuition and basically a total lack of evidence. And nowhere in the city does the median number of cars per household actually reach 2 cars per unit according to our census data. So-called required parking numbers for businesses are usually derived from planning manuals where they went around and they surveyed various types of businesses, averaged them up and decided this is the amount of parking that you need for this size of the business. But that notion totally divorces itself from where these businesses are actually located. Would we really want these businesses to be filled with parking cars all the time anyways, and the attendant traffic? In the case of housing, we have several large developments near Moody Street where we required a lot of parking of them. And it turns out that after 5 years, 10 years of residents living there, the parking wasn't really necessary. Residents living nearby paid for parking that they didn't use. I think that money would have been better spent at our local businesses. They obviously wanted to live locally, they didn't need a car, so why not put that money into Moody Street instead? I see these mandates as typically as due everywhere anyways. My understanding is that there's a bill in front of the Connecticut governor, culturally similar state to us, I believe, that sign these away. And there's a bill in the State House, I believe, as well, which would also remove a lot of parking mandates. So I think that we should get ahead of this actually now and start thinking about this. My second ask is that we address the actual driver of these parking mandates in the first place, and that is our restricted use codes table. We mandate very separated land uses, which is effectively a mandate for driving and traffic for many of our residents. Do we think that corner stores and hairdressers are really such noxious uses that we can't have them in our neighborhoods? I'd like to see more of these businesses everywhere. They're places where we can meet our immediate neighbors and build stronger community bonds. Our residential zoning is in desperate need of updating. As stated by other speakers, we've effectively prevented 72% of our housing units from being rebuilt without some sort of costly special permit process. This means that 3/4 of the existing character of our neighborhoods has basically been determined to be undesirable for one reason or another. A simple reform like reducing minimum lot size requirements on its own would address one of the biggest drivers of this, which on its own renders about half the parcels non-compliant. We should allow organic growth to happen. I suggest that we look into a formula where the next increment up of development would be allowed by right. So for example, in single-family home neighborhoods, a duplex would be allowed almost by right, or in duplex neighborhoods, a quadplex, for example. This sort of gradual change would address the concerns of residents who don't want to see rapid changes in their neighborhood, but it still allows for housing developments to occur, which our housing market needs. I don't think our inclusionary or zoning ordinance is working. I know that we're waiting for the results from an economic study, and I'm really excited to see those numbers, but I'm pessimistic that our zoning and those affordability requirements are going to pencil out economically anywhere in the city. I think if we're serious about supporting this type of housing at this level of affordability, we need to boost the density levels that were supported by density bonuses, or we need to reduce the requirements on more of these projects pencil out. I'm not sure actually about inclusionary zoning really at all, and maybe actually we should just drop the requirement because I don't think it's actually worked anywhere where it's applied. Lastly, I think this is my most important ask. I think we should make citywide discussions like this as part of our regular process. I think that this is a much healthier way to discuss development in our city. When we limit limit discussions about housing developments to specific projects, we attract voters who have only negative things to say about the development. Why would they say anything else? They're not going to move in the development. Why would anybody move across the street? On the other hand, if you're a resident who can move there, you don't know if you're going to move to any particular project. So why would you go to every single one of these in support of it? It wouldn't be feasible. So I think we should have this on a regular basis and plan for that as a part of this zoning change. My one last ask, I don't actually know if this is part of the zoning code, but let's have more food trucks. Food trucks are awesome. They're great for the community. Let's have them in as many places as we can. Thank you.
Chris Hammer, 190 Adams Street. I lived in Waltham for 4 years now. When I first moved here, I had 7 friends from college who already lived in Waltham. All 7 of them have now left Waltham. Most of them moved further out to Hudson, a couple to New Hampshire actually. And the one that was in New Hampshire still commutes to Waltham a couple days a week. All of them would prefer to stay in Waltham if possible, feasible. Rents got too high for them when they wanted to get on the property ladder, and there was no way to do it in Waltham. I've been here 4 years now. I'm starting to look. I work in tech, I'm going to be just fine, but many people aren't in my situation, aren't going to have to leave when they want to start a family or they want to get into a bigger house or get on that ladder in the first place. I live in the south side in a building built in 1895. It's on the Storefront Street. It was built for the workers in the watch factory. You know, my house, I think, torn down anytime soon, but I'm watching as all the buildings up and down the street are torn down for, you know, houses that are duplexes that only go for 1.4 million at a minimum. I'd like to see, at the very least, when those teardowns happen, we maintain the number of units, if not get another unit in there, have some housing built, more trees, and then not just have the space be consumed by garages underneath them. It's not helping, especially when, you know, I live on the south side. I walk to 2 different grocery stores. I ride my bike to a third one. I work from home most of the time. My wife works from home. We have one car. We don't need all the cars and all that stuff. So I'd like to see more affordable starter homes, maintain at the very least the housing that we have now. It's crazy that we are losing some in some situations. And kind of addressing the parking minimum where we just built, you know, another parking lot on the south side, and if you go 1 block over, there's Forward Street parking. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you to the consultants in the city for having this input hearing. My name is Danny Samuda. I live at 14 Brook Ave, Unit 2. I could probably talk for several hours about my ideal zoning code, so it'll be tough to fit it all in a couple minutes. That's why the first thing I would love to see is more opportunities for us as residents to work together with the consultants to plan for our future Waltham. It would be nice to talk about some of the specifics about density or setbacks, things like that I have in mind, without taking away from the ideas and principles that I want to talk about that I think should guide our own zoning. The main thing I want to see our zoning is our zoning allowing people the options to do things that make Waltham such a great place to live. Our housing supply is massively constrained, and we desperately need more housing built so people don't keep getting priced out. Our rules as they exist don't even allow Waltham as it is currently to be rebuilt, as many have said. I think that new development at Newton and High, what used to be a modest little apartment building with 6 units, got torn down into 4 massive 30,000 square foot townhouses on a lot of asphalt, selling for $1.5 million each. The most a developer can build in most of South Waltham is a duplex, so now we have fewer homes at a far higher cost. It would be great to allow people to build more apartments in the same lots that are modest in size, so that we aren't losing housing when it's time to redevelop a home. That way, when people start a new business in Waltham, whether it's in an office off 128 or a restaurant on Moody, their employees can live in Waltham instead of having to drive in and adding to our traffic issues or pushing an existing Waltham resident out. When our high schoolers or university students graduate, they can stay in Waltham so they can continue contributing to our community. In line with that, I think we should lower our absurdly high parking mandates so we stop having massive lots of asphalt that go unused like at the watch factory. Instead, the developer could have the option to build more homes or more green space for residents to use, or if it's a business, they could have more space for their business instead of empty parking spots. We have an admirable requirement of 20% of units in new apartments to be income restricted and affordable. That rule has resulted in 0 units of affordable housing because it is too expensive to subsidize that much below market housing at current building prices and market rates. It would be great if we could support affordable housing builders by providing density bonuses, direct subsidy to our community preservation fund, or maybe even a property tax abatement in exchange for greater and more deeply affordable units. When it comes to commercial zoning, I think it would be great to make it easier for people to open new businesses. I would love to see regulation of nuisances we don't want to see rather than explicit allow lists, so that when we have something like escapology coming into the city, their opening doesn't get delayed by several months so we can add escape rooms to the zoning code. And finally, I think we should also take a look at specific focus areas like Feltonstein. I live right off Felton and walk down at a time to get downtown or the train station. People have homes on it, but you couldn't tell that it's a neighborhood because of the industrial zoning there. I need to get my car serviced every now and then too, but I do think that we could use our land right next to downtown, right next to Moody, all the shops and restaurants, the grocery store, the commuter rail, better than a bunch of auto body shops and landscaping lots. It would be great to see some more homes and businesses like small retail, restaurants, and cafes in that area by overlaying mixed-use multifamily homes there. I'm not saying to ban those existing businesses. I'm saying give those owners the option to build a home for themselves and future Waltham residents when they're ready to retire and close up shop. I think it's very important to provide people more options to build homes and start businesses predictably. I would love to see that in our zoning code. We should have greater flexibility in our rules and allow more things by right so that we can continue building the Waltham that we love. We should plan for a vibrant, growing Waltham that doesn't stagnate and choke on ever-growing housing costs. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anna G. I live on 308 River Street. I've only been in Waltham for about 2 years, but I'd really love to stay for a lot more. I think it's a really great city. I love where I live. I'm, within walking and biking distance to the train, to the bus, to the Charles Greenway, to Beauty Street. I love walking around it. It's great. And so I am very disappointed that our current zoning code makes homes like that I live in illegal to build, and it makes Beauty Street illegal to build now. So a lot of what I have to say kind of echoes what a lot of other people have said before. So smaller single-family homes on smaller lots, modest multi-family housing, so sort of buildings that are the same size, but units that are smaller and more affordable, as well as sort of eliminating or reassessing restrictive parking minimums that just kind of pave over ground and get rid of all of our space. But I'd also like to recognize that I know that this isn't just a Waltham issue, this is also a Massachusetts issue. And so I wouldn't expect Waltham to solve Massachusetts' whole housing issue, but I would love to see Waltham be like a leader in the kind of affordable housing that we want to see in the future, and the kind of communities and neighborhoods that we want to see. And to have Waltham be a city that listens at events like this to what we are saying to you. So thank you for hosting this hearing. Thank you.
Yeah, just give me your address one more time.
308 River Street.
Thank you.
I'm great.
Good evening. My name is Carlson Carter. I live at 74 South Street, Waltham. The previous speaker is exactly right. This is a Massachusetts issue. As a matter of fact, it's a nationwide issue, a shortage of housing. But I would submit that Waltham is not responsible for this shortage and shouldn't be expected to solve the problem because I think Waltham has done enough. We are more than 1/2 apartments in the city. We are very dense. Apartments they turn over an average of 1.5 years, and it attracts a transient population. We should not be expected to increase that way over that 1/2 apartments. Our surrounding communities, all of the communities that border Waltham, have all increased the value of their homes by 100%. None of them provide the amount of housing that we provide. So I would say it would be nice if we could do more, but they should pick it up and also do more. The cost of housing, everyone talks about the cost. I've been talking to developers in Waltham, and I know this to be a fact, that the cost of land alone is around $400,000 to $450,000 just per unit. If you want to build a 2,000 square foot home, you're talking about costing around $600,000 for labor and material. So they don't just invent this, $1 million condos, and that's for a condo. We see a lot of these tear downs. Well, a lot of these tear downs, they cannot be rehabilitated. So they sell them. They sell them for $700,000. So naturally, a person's going to come in and they're going to build a 2-family house on that lot. And there's your land costs, which are very high, and your material costs. So actually now the previous speakers, all of them have been exactly right. The only way to decrease the unit cost of housing is to increase density. But is that really, what we want to do? We have to consider the consequences of that. And the only way you can do that is when we have parking requirements, 2 spaces per unit. So if you're requiring 2 spaces per unit, and you have a 2-family house, there's 4 spaces right there. You go to a 4-family house, now you're talking 8 spaces. So, it's the land is limited. If you go throughout the whole south side, the west end, the land is not available to go any denser unless you go up. And some of these housing advocates have advocated that. They've advocated no parking or limited parking and going up to 6-story buildings in single-family home areas. I don't know if that's what people want to see. Now, if we build housing without parking requirements, where are the people who have cars that are going to rent these apartments? Where are they going to park their cars? If you drive around the south side of the West End any night, you will not find any off-street parking. So you're going to have a situation where you're not going to see any place for these people to park. So what is the actual national goal of these housing advocates? And it is to eliminate cars. We're seeing it everywhere. And to restrict the movement of people. And they cite Cambridge and Somerville as places. They would like people to be riding bicycles, they'd like them walking, they'd like them using public transportation, and to limit the use of a car. We actually have a state senator that introduced a bill to severely limit the use of people using automobiles. Single-family homeowners in the city and other people, they require automobiles just to perform daily tasks. Go to the supermarket, drive their children to daycare, drive to their jobs. I have had plenty of experience with renting apartments, and at least 2.5 spaces per unit. And if you reduce that, it's just going to cause a lot of problems. I would ask all of you to go into the single-family home areas that you represent and ask them, is this the kind of a city that you want? These people bought single-family homes because they thought that was the type of neighborhood they were going to be living in. Just ask them, do you want to have 6-story buildings with no parking, so that if there's any people that have cars, they're going to be parking on your streets? Is that the type of a neighborhood that you bought into? Maybe they are. Maybe that's the way Waltham is going. But that's up to you to decide. If you feel as though your constituents are looking for that type of housing, and you're looking for that type of density, then by all means follow the recommendations of these upzoning advocates in Waltham.
I was Solomon Fellow, 220.
So did you already say?
I can do it.
Yeah, no, you can finish that, and then when you finish signing, if you pass it to the gentleman.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity for the public to speak. I'm just going to follow up on Carl's comments. I lived in Waltham for about 15 years. My wife and I have owned our place for about 11 now on the south side on Waltham Street. We have an 8-year-old at Whitmore. We are one car parcel. I biked it. It was right there. I bike to the errands. So just wanted to make those statements. Biking advocates, people that get around bikes, do not want to get rid of cars, but we also do not want a Waltham where a developer is required to build 2 units, 2 parking spots for every housing unit when many families do not need such spaces. And if we build housing with fewer parking spots, you will attract residents who have fewer cars. If you build housing where every single unit comes with 2 spots or 3 spots or however many, you will attract residents who have 2 cars, who have 3 cars. You will end up with just wanted to put a couple of statements just to refute what Carl had said right here. Thank you.
Well, hello, my name is Stan Yen. I live at 215 Rutland Street. I don't actually have a lot to add, but I just wanted to make my voice heard as a 27-year resident of Waltham. I live in
just pull that microphone over. That's great. I know you're tall.
Yeah.
We need a tall mic for you.
Yeah, how about if I give you this? Did a lot extra work out here. So I don't have a lot to add, but I do think that, housing is ridiculous. I am grateful that I was able to buy a home in Waltham in 1997. And I moved to Waltham because it was affordable, and I appreciate the mixed use and a mix of business and residential. I thought that helped with taxes. I thought that supported the city. I love being able to have all of the various stores and whatnot on Rudy Street. Kind of miss the loss of the Waldex.
Dating yourself.
Yes. And I wish we could have more of that kind of thing. I think the one thing I didn't want to mention is that we are also a single car household, the two of us, like my both work from home. And one of the things about the zoning, which in some ways, some of this information I heard having in this last few minutes is I got the sense of, but it's sort of astounding about how we cannot have the same kind of density that we currently have because of the zoning. And I've watched the character of the street that I live on change from a more cozy kind of feeling to these duplexes that are, like, I was astounded that at the corner of Lowell and Robbins, a cute little, or it wasn't little, it was a Victorian, I don't know what it was, multifamily or single, but it got turned into a 2-unit duplex, and each unit was more than double what we paid for as a single home, which I found astonishing. And there's multiple tear downs that are happening, or have happened in the last 2 or 3 years. And I think that to the point that a lot of people have made, that if we can at least support the existing thing, the existing amount of density that we currently have. I was very disappointed with Mass Community Act when they put the zoning changes in remote places around Brandeis rather than Elton Street and Charles Street near the commuter rail where you could walk to Hannaford's, or like having that density and being able to walk and being able to ride. I know some people don't like to walk or ride, but that's their prerogative as well. Anyway, I don't think I have anything else to add to this, so thank you very much for having the hearing. Thank you.
Anyone like to speak? So I wanted to start by thanking you all. Hot night, traffic was awful coming over here, and it's a tribute that you guys came out, and we, as councilors, appreciate that input that you bring to us tonight, and we take it seriously, and we will follow up on it. The next step for this is I'm going to refer this back to the Ordinance and Rules Committee, which Councilor Harris chairs. This is the end of the meeting. Again, we appreciate you all coming out. Councilor Harris moves to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The public